Hello and welcome to Suburbia's Dirty Little Secret. I wanted to tell you guys some great updates that we have. We changed our activism group name on Facebook to hashtag Breaking Code Silence. So go ahead and join that if you want to get involved. If you want to share your story and do some of these Breaking Code Silence videos, then make sure you go to breakingcodesilence.net. You can fill out a submission there. Also, you can sign our petition that we are gearing this towards legislative change. So if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe, like, and click the little bell to receive notifications. And here's Rebecca's story. Thank you.
Awesome. Like I said, we're here today with Rebecca Moorman. We're going to understand a little bit more about Rebecca's journey as a survivor and maybe what she went through. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi. So we're going to just kick this right off with Rebecca here. So Rebecca, it looks like you were sent off to the wilderness in Idaho. If you can, share with the viewers here a little bit about the escort process as well as why you were kind of sent to the wilderness.
So I was sent to the wilderness because I was a kid who didn't like to go to school that much. It just wasn't really my thing. And my parents were concerned because I was truant. And then I also, they didn't like the amount that I was partying. And I was just more focused on being social with my friends than I was on school.
Sure, and I'm sure there's a lot of teenagers out there like that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely very focus on socializing and whatnot.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other teenagers I was hanging out with were also more focused on
exactly.
that.
Yeah, before you were sent off, I mean, how old were you? What grade were you in?
So I was sent off 3 days after my 17th birthday. So that was kind of a bummer because I was like almost, the light was at the end of the tunnel. And
senior in high school, junior in high school?
It was actually over the summer, so it was right before my junior year.
Gotcha.
When it started. So what happens is they have two very large people. I mean, I was around 100 pounds, but they come in and they tell you that you have to go with them. And there's strangers, so you just wake up and there's strangers in your room. They don't give you an option. Like, I resisted, but I mean, I was a 100-pound high school kid, so I got handcuffed and carried out and thrown in the back of a car with the child locks on, and they drove me to the airport. And they told me that if I tried to run, they would pretty much put a leash on me to walk me through the airport. Yeah.
Oh, that's humane, definitely. So a lot of the survivors that were escorted were kind of in the middle of the night. Was this the same for you?
Yes, I was asleep, and like I said, I'm in two strangers in my room.
Yeah, what was the experience like? And what I mean by that, were your parents up? Were they part of that whole process when you were escorted?
No, they I'm pretty sure they left the house, or I didn't see them at all. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, talk to us a little bit about when you got to the wilderness. What was your experience like?
So they make you go to a doctor's appointment first. And then basically just to say that you're like healthy enough to go out there. And then they dropped us off at camp. And by that point it was evening. So we had dinner basically and went to bed. They strip search you upon arrival. So it's like, hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We're going to strip you down. Yeah. And then the next day we got up, you have to roll, a backpack, so you have sleeping bag, sleeping mat, and a tarp, and you have to roll it into a backpack, and then we hiked for 5 or 6 miles, and to a location, I'm assuming.
Yeah, to a location
there, yeah.
That had like a water barrel. Like we had to carry all of our own food, but there were different water barrels stationed.
Why were you escorted and sent away?
I mean, I think my parents got the escorts because they didn't want to tell me that they were going to send me because they knew that I would run away, which I
probably would have.
Would have, yeah.
And you were living in Washington?
Yeah, and I was living in Washington.
So one thing that's important to note here is in Washington, the age of consent is 13 years old. And so after the age of 13, you have to be court ordered or ordered by a psychologist for residential treatment against your will. So the way around that is to have students or kids be escorted in the middle of the night and taken to states where they don't have that age limit on it.
And in this particular case, the psychiatrist my parents had me see had actually recommended against sending me to a program. So they did this against medical advice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, when you got to Wilderness, that's in Idaho, you were there for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what those 6 weeks were like.
So for the first week, they call it I phase. So you're isolated. So you're not allowed to talk, and you do everything by yourself. You like eat meals by yourself. I think we only had dinner together, so it was pretty miserable. And then you go into family phase. And when I was in family phase, I was the only girl in my group. It was all guys, and I got a UTI and like basically had to pressure them into taking me to the doctor for days. So it was very uncomfortable.
UTI, it seems like they neglected that. I know we were talking before a little bit about medical neglect. Talk to us a little bit about maybe the underwear story you were talking to me about. Yeah.
So part of the reason why we think that this might have happened was that the hygiene there was not good. We didn't shower for the full 6 weeks that we were there. So you get 7 pairs of underwear, and for the first 2 days, you wear them one way, and then after that, the next 2 days, you wear them the other way. So you're wearing the same pair of underwear for 4 days.
Okay.
Without showering.
Clean. Definitely clean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after the 6 weeks, well, before we move on, anything else you want to talk about Wilderness?
No, it's good.
No, you're good. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're out in the wilderness. You're kind of isolated for most of the time. So after that, after the 6 weeks, you left Wilderness to the Monarch school, and I got you down here from about 2003 to 2005, so about 2 years. What was the process like from leaving Wilderness to going to Monarch?
So again, I was escorted, but this time it wasn't as jarring because they didn't wake me up at 4 a.m, and I knew I was going to go to an emotional growth boarding school. So that escort process actually wasn't so bad. I actually, my escorts, since I was cooperative, they bought me candy and gave me cigarettes.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. You're the first person that's told me that
Yeah.
with any of the escorts. So
Well,
they seem so nice.
They did, and I was like I said, I was being cooperative with them, and I also I did end up smoking quite a lot of their cigarettes because it was a stressful situation.
For sure.
Still, you know.
And you're probably looking forward to getting out of Wilderness, right? Sometimes Wilderness, as bad as it may be, Monarch's kind of unknown, so it may be better.
It may be better, but there was part of me that knew. Like I saw their brochure, and it's like all these very well scrubbed kids and like LL Bean.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. Like sweaters, and I mean. I'm wearing a sweater, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're like, this, and we've talked in past interviews just how fake some of these brochures can be, right?
Yeah.
Kids riding horses and having a lot of fun, and it really appeals to parents wanting to better their teens, which isn't always the case. So you went to the Monarch School, which I have in Montana in 2003. What happened when you got to the Monarch School?
It was initially really overwhelming. I mean, just because, whenever you arrive anywhere and you're the new person, you're learning all these people's names. And then they had all these rules, like you had to wear your hair up. They had this theory that girls flirt with their hair. So you had to wear a ponytail. You had to have your shirt tucked in. They had this whole thing, your shirt couldn't, cup your breasts. So it had to be a certain amount.
Like baggage, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you kind of looked frumpy, and pants couldn't be too tight because you didn't want to distract the boys, and so all of that was really overwhelming. It was hard to just have wear clothes because initially my parents had no idea that the dress code was going to be that strict. And the other thing that was really weird was everyone did this thing called smushing. So we were all kind of required to cuddle with each other. So when I first got there, they're trying to bring you into the group. So you basically get love bombed.
Yeah.
So,
right when you get there.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
they don't. There is no holding back, and they all hug each other at the end of the night, too.
And not just the students, but
The staff
as
participated
well.
too.
Yeah. The average age of the staff would be.
There was actually quite a range. It was the youngest staff member when I was there was 22, and the oldest one I think was probably about 57 to 60.
Probably a little creepy.
A little creepy, yeah. When I was 17, I liked older guys, but not in the geriatric.
Not 56.
Not 56,
okay.
yeah.
Just confirming for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you knew you were going to the Monarch. Monarchs are in Montana. So explain a little bit more what the Monarch School was all about when you got there.
So we did the smushing thing. That was a large part of it. And then we do group therapy, and I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 times a week. So that was basically attack therapy. It was like you'd sit in a circle and give each other feedback about something that someone was doing that wasn't okay. And kind of the best thing to do in a group like that is to give someone feedback, because then the attention is off of you.
Yeah.
But if you did something wrong, like I ran away when I was there, so if you did something wrong, the group would kind of be relieved, because that would mean that they could spend a good hour to an hour and a half of the time basically blasting you.
How many people in this group?
Like 15.
Like 15.
Sometimes 20.
So if you did something kind of serious, right, then
Mhm.
all the attention's on you, and then everybody else can kind of sit in the background.
Yes,
And
but
then
they're all telling you
blasting you.
like
Yeah.
that you're selfish and
Yeah, would they like get in your face and yell at you, or was it just like, I'm giving you direct feedback?
they would actually have to get up and get across the room from you
Mm-hmm.
if they were going to talk to you. And they still yelled, and it was still really intense, but I guess they set it up like that so it wouldn't be as intense, so your neighbor's not like screaming at you.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, people would cry and yell, and like, it was crazy. It was intense.
And no therapists were in this
They
process?
did actually have a licensed psychologist that was participating. Yeah.
in attack therapy. It's
Yeah.
weird that I haven't seen this in the psychology books as a treatment.
Yeah. Odd.
It's so odd. And talking to a lot of survivors too, there's not always an accredited psychologist or doctor there. It's the staff, right?
Right. Because most of the staff were untrained. But we did have psychologists and mental health counselors. But your parents had to pay extra, which is interesting because it's therapeutic boarding school, but then you're paying extra for therapy.
Yeah. What do you have any idea what the tuition or the cost was?
I think it was around $4,500 a month.
Gotcha.
I wish I made that salary.
So you'd mentioned to us that you ran away. You were there about
Mm-hmm.
2 years. How far in before you ran away, and why?
I ran away because I was just tired of being there, and I thought it was bull. I thought everyone was weird. And basically, one of my good friends had sent a letter. He was trying to get in touch with me, sent a letter to my house, and I of course didn't get it. But my sister ended up telling me about it, and for some reason, something in the back of my head was like, "You need out. You need to get out." So I went down to Highway 200. I made it all the way out there and tried to hitchhike. But then I was nervous that I would have to. It's kind of a Sophie's Choice scenario. Like, do I want to perform head on a trucker, or do I want because I'm 17. Like, that's like what I was.
It's scary. You don't really know. It's scary to hitchhike, right? Out in the middle of nowhere.
Of nowhere,
Yeah.
and there's wild animals, like bears.
And did they like brainwash that into you though? That if you left, this is like for us, they would tell us if you run, there's wild animals out there, or you're not going to have any money to go.
Yeah.
So they create that fear. So you're afraid to leave. Really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the bear thing. That is actually true. They took us hiking and stuff on trails, and there was like missing persons, on trailheads and stuff, and
Yeah.
like you're in bear country. The bear thing. I'm like, they weren't lying. That is real. Like,
How many miles away from the facility did you get?
that would have been about probably about 5 miles.
5 miles?
Yeah.
Through wilderness or through
Just
city,
like
town?
backcountry roads.
Backcountry roads?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Why did you go back?
One of the staff drove by and saw me, and I just got in the car with him.
Gotcha. Just
Yeah.
jumped in. And what kind of punishment did you receive when you got back?
I was put on bans, which means I was basically not allowed to talk to almost the entire school. I had to sit in a corner by myself in kind of the main lodge that they had, and then also in the cafeteria. And then I had to do stump removal with a Pulaski axe and shovel.
What is that for the viewers that don't know?
It's like if, there's like a tree stump, they make you pull it out of the ground without any, obviously without any, heavy machinery or whatever that people normally use. So, yeah, they make you do it by hand.
And it took you how long to do that task?
Ooh, that one, it was 3 stumps that had an interconnected root system, and that took 3 weeks.
Wow. Yeah. And that was pretty much your everyday, right?
Yeah, so because if you're in trouble like that, you're not going to classes, which is interesting because my parents wanted me to be in school. Yeah. And then I went there and I was not.
Ironic.
Definitely. Yeah.
So. Well, before we jump into the education portion, many programs have a level system.
Yeah.
What was the level system like at the Monarch School?
So it was 1 through 5 or 1 through 6. I don't remember. And you got different privileges at different levels. The main thing I remember is at level 5 you could walk by yourself. So we were always walking between buildings as a group.
Gotcha.
But you weren't ever really allowed to be by yourself. And so at level 5 you could walk by yourself.
Interesting. Where do you spend most of your time?
Mostly you were in, we had work crews, so they kind of had you do labor around the property, but they told parents that they were doing vocational crews to make it,
So it was more like child labor.
It was more like child labor, yeah.
Okay.
So we were cutting down trees and then building furniture out of the trees that we cut down, and yeah.
What was so you didn't have therapy with counselors?
We did.
Oh, but for an additional fee. So what was the therapeutic part that they...
The screaming at each other with the snot and the crying, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So your parents wanted you to go to school and get a great education. How'd that go?
Well, we only did school for about 9 hours a week. And the schooling was supposed to be accelerated since it was year-round. But the education was not very good. When I went to college, I was completely unprepared. College, they want you to write a paper, and I'm like, yeah, I don't.
You're like, I don't know how to do that. They didn't prep me at all.
No,
I'm assuming the Monarch School sold the parents on, hey, great education, accelerated education.
College preparatory education.
Not the case. 9 hours a week, definitely, probably not prepping you. I think we were talking before this interview, you were saying it was non-accredited. How'd that affect you getting into college?
So that didn't affect me getting into college, but I went to the Evergreen State College, so I went to, exactly. I went to a hippie college, so I don't think that they really, and the school still, it's almost, it's like everything looked very official. They had official transcripts or whatever that they were sending to the colleges, but they weren't, I have the whole 2005, all the schools that are listed under Montana Department of Education, and it's not on there. So yeah.
Interesting.
So I don't know if I.
So great education, you're saying, right?
Was it self-taught where you read a book and then took a test?
No, we had actual classes with teachers.
Oh.
They were I said, they weren't very good. Mm-hmm. And the school itself wasn't accredited. They were using some sort of third party, if they were even using one at all. I'm not entirely sure how their setup worked. Yeah.
Well, so what made you want to work up through the levels? And how did you kind of work up through the levels?
Well, I would say, I hate calling it Stockholm Syndrome because I prefer the term learned helplessness. When I was unsuccessful at my attempt of running away, I kind of just gave up
Mm-hmm.
and decided to give in because I kind of, I mean, they hit me with so many threats. Like I was going to turn 18 in a few months, and they were like, told me like
Yeah.
if you if you leave here or you're going to leave here, whatever, we'll try and put you somewhere else that's worse that can keep you till you're 21 or so.
A lot of threats that kind of keep you going. So
Yeah.
it kind of made you want to just get out at all costs, right?
Yeah, and they also told me like my family would cut me off and wouldn't talk to me anymore.
Oh.
So I'd be isolated from my family.
What was the worst thing you saw at the Monarch school, whether it be, on you or maybe somebody also going to the school?
So there's two things.
Sure.
There was a staff member that was overly touchy-feely and kind of gropey and like wrestly with this 15-year-old girl. And I remember watching that, and it just made me sick, but you couldn't say anything because, yeah. But it was always in the back of my mind, like, he's doing more than just, like, this is, like, the public display. It was very grooming, He was grooming her, and it was nauseating. And actually, I was talking about this with some of my other friends, because we're like, oh, do you remember how so-and-so was with so-and-so? And I was like, ew, like...
Do you think anything progressed beyond that?
I would suspect.
Yeah.
Just with the way that he was towards her. It was just gross. The other thing I saw that was really horrible was a friend of mine had gotten knee surgery, and they decided not to follow post-operative instructions. So she wasn't supposed to walk, but they made her walk anyways. And it completely made it just wasn't good for, post-surgical outcomes to,
Sure.
Not listen to the surgeon.
Yeah.
So a staff member was going to go check on this girl, and she kept telling me that the girl was faking her level of pain, which makes me wonder if they were giving her pain meds, as they were prescribed or if they were supposed to. So when we got in, the staff member took off the bandage, and her knee looked horrible. It was, to be honest with you, in hindsight, she should have gone to the hospital. And then this girl wasn't able to shower and get her bandage wet. So myself and another student were actually asked to bathe her, help her get into and out of the bathtub. And probably not a huge surprise, we're not licensed to do that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
This goes back to the whole child labor type of thing, right? So
Totally.
Yeah. Sounds pretty bad. I know I've heard a lot of bad things about it from a variety of different programs and whatnot. Eventually you got out, you graduated at 18, right?
18.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what you were feeling when you left and when you got home finally.
Oh, I could not wait to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's this weird thing that goes on. It's like some cognitive dissonance, because even though I bought into the program, but I'm really excited to leave. And so I was like, why do I feel like this? Because you're kind of forced to be out of touch with not wanting to be there. But when I got out, I was just like, I went and I got a job, and I wore my own clothes and ate what I wanted to eat, and, went out in the evenings, and I lived with my mom for the summer, and she still wanted me to have a curfew, and, it was a little but honestly, it was just nice to be out. I didn't really mind.
And you had a home contract, I'm assuming you didn't really follow it though, right?
That's correct.
Nor did your parents really hold accountable.
No, and once I went to college, there were some silly things, like my dad didn't want me to put my nose ring back in.
Yeah.
And you can see who won that argument.
Still wearing the nose ring.
Still, yeah.
A lot of survivors struggle when they get out of the program, right? Talk to us a little bit about maybe some of your opportunities or some of your struggles once you got back home.
So a big thing was I worked at a coffee shop, and I remember the first, we have staff meetings. I remember being completely terrified to go to this staff meeting because I was scared that everyone was going to start yelling at each other.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't.
They didn't, yeah.
No, it ended with everyone drinking beer. I mean, go figure. And eating pizza. It was like, this is very normal. But I was so terrified that they were going to be like, Rebecca, you didn't take out the garbage last night. You're such a piece of shit, and you're so lazy.
Why do you think that is? It is because, right?
Yes.
We were talking about that a little bit earlier. Yeah, it's kind of what you're used to. Yeah.
Yes, and then also that same fear, like at Evergreen, you have to meet with faculty one-on-one after each quarter to kind of discuss how it went, and they'll give you your student evaluation. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, a staff member is going to evaluate me and give me feedback. It was a nightmare. Like, oh my God.
I have cried during employee reviews because I've been so scared and nervous, and they're like, we just said you're doing great. But
in this meeting, we're letting you know you're getting a raise. And you're like,
my God, thank you.
I think my boss thinks I'm crazy because I'm like, I like hug her at the end, and I'm like,
what sort of things? I mean, you've been out since 2005, so almost 14, 15 years, right? What sort of things do you think you're struggling with currently because of your time in the program?
Oh, well, so I still have that thing with one-on-one meetings with authority figures. I go to some like hippie festivals every once in a while, and people are kind of touchy-feely and cuddly, and I know that they're not trying to like get me into their group and brainwash me, but I'm like, oh my God, are they love bombing me?
Are they, what do you call it, smooshing?
Yeah,
smooshing. Go smoosh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, so like that's always a struggle. And then I still have nightmares that I am getting sent back.
Yeah.
And that's hard because I'm like, no, I'm 33. I'm
I'm
an adult.
I'm okay. Nobody can do that to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Also, and I think I mentioned this earlier, but if I have like an intimate partner, I have difficulty like cuddling with them in bed. Mm-hmm. Like I want them to not do that.
Yeah, well, probably because of your time
being forced to cuddle with 50-year-old men.
Yeah, I could see that. Is there any? Well, I guess my last question would be, why speak out about the program?
Well, there's still programs like this in the United States and probably abroad too. And the more that we speak out, the more the laws and regulations change.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think covered it.
Yeah. Jenna, anything else you want to add?
I think what's really important about Rebecca's story is that she came from a state that has really strict child protection laws to prevent this type of thing from happening, and she was still taken and she was still sent there. So this is just another reason why so much of what we're focusing on right now is federal legislation changes, because when we work at a state level, they're still getting around it through manipulating the system or making it look like a certain type of school, which it's not, or saying they provide therapy. So I think her story is really important because it shows why that is needed. So that's
great ad for sure. So you've seen a few interviews now, really, about these unregulated schools. That if you keep working with Suburbia's Dirty Little Secret, I know there's some links attached. Jump on, join the cause. This is Jenna Bulis and Rebecca Moorman. I'm Mark Rancy. Appreciate everybody jumping on and listening to our interview.